Yo, okay, so I'm going to talk about my pedalboard today, which is something that no one else on YouTube has ever talked about. Okay, so I'll take you through it one by one. I'm not going to do an audio demo today. All my crap is everywhere. I'm in the process of moving, and I'm just kind of cleaning and clearing stuff out of here, so it's not very convenient to do an audio demo right today. But I will talk about it. So I'll put a picture up here so you can see. This pedal board actually started off, this is like the third iteration of this actual board. I got professionally wired by Tone Design a few years ago, and it actually had a tier, a second level, which after a while using it decided that it just wasn't for me. It really added too many pedals to the board that I wasn't using, and as a result, is able to really drop the weight quite a bit, which was nice because this one has a hard shell flight case. So that was really convenient. Although I would recommend his work. His work is impeccable. It just didn't really logically, fit into my workflow. After a while, I had a few substitutions of pedals in there, and eventually sent them over to David over at LA Sound Design. Another guy I highly recommend. He does a lot of incredibly awesome boards and rigs. That was probably my third build from him. I've had him for years. Came back, and eventually, the the crippling disease we all have as guitar players and gear nerds is just, I wonder what this one sounds like. I wonder what this one sounds. Start swapping stuff. Before you know it, your pedal board's totally different. So what I really wanted to do with this board I'm about to show you is get a really streamlined, versatile, and largely permanent setup that fits my music and isn't just like, hey, I'm noodling for YouTube or I'm whatever. This is a proper gigging board of sounds that I've used in the studio that I've wanted to use live. Okay, so I'll stick it up here somewhere, and the first one is the tuner, of course, is the most important pedal on your board. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If you're not in tune, it's not going to go well, my friend. So I use the Peterson Strobo Stomp. I like this one because the build quality, it's not as good as like a Boss pedal, but it's still really good. And really the main feature is just the large display that has a very bright LED. And you can change the colors. Right now it's on orange, but I know it can go green, and green is actually super bright and just really easy to read, very legible. And of course it's chromatic. So that's first in my chain. So after that, we're going to go to my drive section. Okay, so my drive section is my favorite section. It's the most fun for me. A few years ago landed on this Greer Lightspeed overdrive, which I'm sure a lot of you have, a lot of you know it. If you don't, I highly recommend it. It's a very transparent overdrive, but it also gives like its own kind of tonal flavor when it's on. It just kind of sparkles, like if you're familiar with a Klon and you throw a Klon, you turn it on, and like that's the sound of a Klon. The Lightspeed has the same kind of personality. It doesn't sound like a Klon. What I'm saying is it has its own personality that I can feel, which is a little counterintuitive because it is technically a transparent amp. It's not like bumping mids or pedals, sorry. It's not bumping mids up or anything like that. I'll say this, when it's off, I notice it. I notice it when it's off. So I like to run the volume at about 1 o'clock and the gain at about 10 o'clock. So I get a good amount of volume. I get just a little bit of grit, just a little bit. Tone is usually right down the middle. And boy, it's such a killer pedal, really well made. I've tried a bunch of Greer stuff, the Royal Velvet, the Southland, probably a couple others I'm forgetting. I think that's his best one, personally. I highly recommend this pedal for a stage 1 overdrive, because it's very light. It doesn't have a super high amount of gain. And it can get some bite, but if you crank the gain knob, it might start to get a little bit too much. I just find like this pedal has a real sweet spot with the gain at around maybe 10 to 12, or a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 if you really want some good pushed overdrive. Greer Lightspeed, highly recommend. The next pedal in my chain is the ThorpyFX The Peacekeeper. I think Thorpy and Greer make the best overdrive pedals on the planet. That's just my opinion. Again, with the buying and selling of gear, this is a pedal that I had for a couple years, and then for some reason I sold it. I don't know why. It makes no sense. I used it in the studio, and then I'm like, oh, I don't like this anymore. I want something else. And it wasn't even I didn't like it. It was just I felt like trying something different. And then after a while, I was like, I don't know, 6 months passed or something, and I was like, why did I sell that? I kept going back to my recordings going like, how did I get that sound? I'm like, oh yeah, it's a Peacekeeper. Like, I can't explain why guitarists do this. It's just, maybe it's part habit, part OCD and boredom. I don't know. In any case, I repurchased the pedal. I found it actually used locally, which was kind of lucky because Thorpy doesn't really come up used very often. And when I put it on, I was like, yep, that's the sound. That's the sound I'm looking for. And I have it again, and I couldn't be happier with it. It's, I've always kind of, not been a huge fan of the reflective kind of casing on these pedals. I know he's getting away from that, and I have his compressor pedal, which has a matte black finish on it, which is super legible. But this one has the transparent, reflective kind of mirror finish. It's annoying. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like that very much, but it doesn't change anything, the pedal. So when I'm using this pedal live, my knobs are set. I generally don't touch my knobs when I'm playing live, because each pedal has a specific purpose. I don't want to be sitting there fiddling, during a performance. That's not ideal. I don't even want to touch it actually. So I run the gain pretty high on this one, about 2 o'clock, because I just like the way it overdrives. Actually, the Peacekeeper to me feels like a natural extension of the Greer Lightspeed in terms of the tone. It's very similarly transparent, but it has its own kind of sparkle. I know it is based on a Klon. It doesn't sound like a Klon, but it's based on that kind of circuit. And that's actually why I love it, because it kind of blooms and it doesn't crowd your tone. It's hard to explain. And it also just feels really good under the fingers. It's silky. I can get a lot of gain out of it, but it just, for some reason, as I turn the gain up and I meddle with it, the clarity of the note separation is just always there. And that's really critical for me. And it has a presence knob actually. So that's super helpful. But yeah, generally I'm not going to touch those knobs when I'm performing or whatever. And I know the pedal well enough now that like I know what settings I like. I know what I need. Once I hit the light speed, then to the Peacekeeper, I know what's going on, sort of thing. So, and the build quality is ridiculous. Like this is a pedal like I could throw from the top of a building and I think it would survive. I really do think that. I don't recommend that, but. The other one I'm thinking about adding into my drive chain, so it's just the 2 drives right now, the Lightspeed and the Peacekeeper. I really want to add the Thorpy Gunshot. The Gunshot, I think is more of like a kind of a Marshall-y stack kind of sound. It sounds really great in the demos. I've never played one because I don't have any Thorpy retailers where I'm located. So I've bought typically directly from Thorpy. Which the shipping is just egregiously expensive, which is not surprising. I do have a dealer in Ontario, but he's a bit far away. And, when you're buying high-end boutique stuff, you really want to be sure that it's the right one, because returning things can be a hassle. So I'm probably going to add that in the next little bit. So yeah, right now 2 drives. Gets me a good wide variety of flavors, but I think a third one would really just bring it up a notch, Okay, so next in the chain is my most recently bought pedals. First pedal I bought in a long time, actually. The Strymon Deco. So this is a weird pedal, and it took a while for me to really come around to understanding what it is before I even bought it. And I had tried it over the years. When I tried it out in stores, because they're widely available, I really just didn't understand what this was for. I was like, you have a saturation, tape saturation on one side, you got a double tracker on the other side. Why are these two things in the same box? I couldn't figure it out, so it just never stuck with me. And then I just kind of, it came back around into my consciousness again. I started thinking about it further, and there's a couple things that made me buy this pedal. There's two things. So the first thing was, I don't really typically like having modulation effects on my board. I know that's probably I'm really in the minority there, because I see so many guys using, a Strymon Mobius, or, a Boss chorus, or some kind of a rotary. And I do like modulation sounds. I use them on records all the time. Phaser, rotary typically, some choruses, whatever. Tremolo especially, I love tremolo. But live, it never really made sense to me to use it as a single guitarist in a band. It felt like just being too much extra that I didn't need. And I found it like cluttering my mental space when I was performing and using it, because I just couldn't get anything to sound good. I tried a few. I tried the Strymon Zelza, the Strymon Ultraviolet, the Boss Waza chorus. I would say everything sounds good, but when you get into a mix and you get into like the mechanics of playing live in the middle of a song, I just found modulation cluttered me up more than I wanted. So that's why the Deco was such a weird, like, interesting option, because the double tracker side can get like a wide-ish variety of modulation sounds. And I've had to really tinker with this, because the knobs are very, very sensitive to positions and sound. So you can actually get, so far I've gotten flange sounds, chorus sounds, and delay sounds, because you're just moving the knob across the sort of time spectrum. It's a very unique way and clever way of setting up a modulation pedal. Because hey, instead of manipulating the effect, let's manipulate time, because those are all time-based effects. And so I just think that's super clever, and it sounds really cool. I landed on the flange sound mostly. That's what I like. I prefer. Chorus can sound a little cheesy after a while, and delay, I don't need delay. I use another pedal for that. So I landed on this really cool flange, and it's nice to have the other options there too if I want to tinker with it. But right now it's just on a nice light, minimally invasive flange sound. It's not like a super jet plane or anything. It's just very subtle, which is cool. The other side of the Deco is my favorite side, the tape saturation side. Is just one of the nicest boost sounds I've ever heard. You can really get in some really crank at the overdrive, but it's one of those sounds where, kind of like the exotic EP booster, where it just gives you this like flavor. When it's on, it's a flavor, and then when it's off, you notice when it's off, and it's like, oh, when you turn it off, it's like, oh, where'd that go? It's a very pleasant sound, and like shockingly musical for an analog, for a digital pedal. And I was like, wow, that kind of blew my mind, actually. So I use it for lead solos, for solo boost. So that way I get, out of one pedal, I get my solo boost plus a modulation effect in the same box. I would have never thought to put those two things together, ever. And I don't think there's a pedal anywhere like a Strymon Deco. I think it's a very unique pedal. So so that's the next pedal in my chain. I love it. I definitely highly recommend it. Of course, I highly recommend all of these pedals because they're on my board and they've been working for me for so long. I definitely recommend all of them. Okay, so the next pedal in my chain is my delay. Oh boy, my delay. This is the Sir Discovery. So it's been on my radar for a while. I'm a delay junkie. I have many delays. I've used many delays. The Sir Discovery, it was pricey, I'll say that. It was very pricey, but after I started using it, I was like, oh my God, this is worth every penny. It's fully analog and fully programmable, which as far as I'm aware, That doesn't exist in a stomp box version anywhere. So because I'm a heavy user of delay, I'm able to program the BPM of each of my songs in order in a menu, and it's pretty easy to toggle, very easy to set up, easy to toggle. It sounds incredible. I mean, it's just pure analog delay bliss. I just love it. Sometimes I miss having a digital delay on my board, but meh, I don't care. This pedal is awesome, and it's super tweakable. So you can get, as soon as I saw a pedal that does BPM saves set in the settings, plus tap divisions, so I can do quarter note, I can do dotted eighth, and those are my two most used tap divisions. And you can save them. You can save, this song is 120 and a dotted eighth saved. I was like, how did nobody think to do this before? I know there's a digital pedal. What is their company called? I think it's a Providence. Digital delay has a similar feature. I don't know if it's as feature packed as this Sir Discovery is, but my goodness, what an incredible product. And it's pretty small, like pretty compact for what it does. I'm a huge fan of the original EHX big box Memory Man, which I have here somewhere. This is like the futuristic version of that pedal, where you get the amazing sounds, but it's in a smaller box and you can fully program it. It's also MIDI capable too, which I don't use, but I mean, what a wicked tool to have. And again, it sounds amazing. I couldn't be happier with that pedal, but my God, yeah, it was pricey. I think it might have been like $800 or something like that. Yeah, in Canada, everything's expensive here. So, yeah, so highly recommend, of course. I sold a couple pedals I had to fund it, so and totally worth it. So, yeah, okay. So the next pedal in my chain is going to be the last one in the chain, and that's my reverb pedal. It's the Strymon Flint. This is the version 2. I've had the Strymon Flint on and off for many years, mostly the version 1. This is my first version 2 that I bought. I cycled through a bunch. Strymon, in my opinion, makes some of the best reverbs. Most people probably feel that way. They're really highly used, especially live. I've had a Big Sky. I tried the Big Sky MX. I had a Cloudburst. Is there another one I'm not thinking of? Blue Sky. I've never had a Blue Sky, actually, but the Flint, there's something about the reverb in the Flint, specifically the 80s setting in the reverb is my favorite. It's honestly the only one I use. And it has a really pleasant decay that makes it sound kind of big and synthy, which I used the Cloudburst for that purpose, but the Cloudburst kind of got a little too difficult to control, let me say that. And that's that shimmering kind of effect, that's a tricky effect for guitarists to use. But I went back to the Flint because it just was so simple to use, and I don't have to tweak it. It sounds good everywhere. Like every setting sounds good. So I have the decay up pretty high because I like it to really just not take over the song, but really be a prominent feature in the guitar sound. And then the other side is the tremolo, which sounds amazing. And tremolo, this is one of those pedals, because it's a 2-in-1, the tremolo doesn't have as much control as maybe some people might like to have. I don't think there's a level control on the Flint. So that can be a problem with tremolos. You really want to have does it have a level? I should look at it before I tell you. It has intensity and speed, so it does not have a level. I haven't really found a problem with it. I don't use tremolo that often. I use it for maybe like bits of songs to add some kind of texture, Mainly I bought this pedal for the reverb side. So, but I like having the tremolo there because, again, I'm not a big modulation guy. And tremolo is like easy and simple to think about and use, and I don't have to use it for like a whole bit of a song. Most times it's just like a guitar part or maybe a solo or something like that. And yeah, so, the build quality on Strymons are fantastic. They are expensive, again, which is not surprising. But really with this board, I wanted to be intentional with each piece on there because as an only one guitar player in the band, I don't want to have a big, I didn't want MIDI. I didn't want switching. I didn't want to think about anything. I wanted each pedal to be incredibly simple to use. And I think all of these are. Um, so, with the exception of maybe adding another drive pedal, this is the best setup I've had in years. I haven't changed it in a while. Well, actually, I did remove a compressor pedal because I was getting a bit sick of having my sound compressed too much, really quash the dynamics. And now it sounds a lot more open. I think I much more enjoy it. I've gone back and forth with compressors on, off for a while. It's something I've cycled through. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that. The last thing I'll say real quick is the power supply is the Chalk's DC7. Excellent power supply. I love how thin it is and light it is. I think it gets a bit of flack because of the RCA connectors are not the highest quality, which I agree with. I don't think they're that high quality. I prefer the barrel connectors. They're a bit more robust, but it still works fine, and it has a lot of power options. Like it can power my Sur Discovery, which I think is 18 volts, no problem. And it's got reverse polarity cables as well in case your rig needs something like that. So yeah, I highly recommend Chalks. I think Strymon power supplies are also excellent. I have an Ojai somewhere that I just kind of use sparingly. It's not on a board. Yeah, that's it. Pedals are fun, aren't they? Yeah, they are. All right. Maybe in the future I'll give you guys a quick demo of these once I'm set up and ready to go. But in any case, if you made it to the end of this video, good for you. That's incredible. That's incredible. Thank you for watching. See you next time.